conversation. And to do a quick recap, we started talking about trust, and we started talking about transforming trauma, the benefits of burnout, and what it really teaches us. And so we did really the first week very much looking at the self and what's going on within us, like what's the goal that we can potentially mine. And then this week we stepped very much into how do we relate to our environments, how do we show up in our teams, how do we show up in our families, also how do we struggle through the things in our outside world, and what are the choices that we can make to really own it. And so today we want to share the next sort of 20 or 30 minutes on integrating the self with the environment, taking a few moments to look back, what are the things that work, what are actionable takeaways, and leaving with a sense of integration, where on the one hand, there is information, but how do we integrate it in our own lives so that we actually make these transformations and these changes. Welcome back, Renske.
Thanks, Tobias. I love the part 8 of 8. 8 is my number, so I love the 8 in the screen here.
Do you mean like it's your energy number? Or what do you mean with your number?
Well, there's a few numbers haunting me in a good sense in my life, which is 8 and 11. And I don't know, I don't have any other way to explain this than the 3 is there to support it. That's how but 8 is more in my, feels like my soul guidance or something. And 11 is more, I don't know. Are we really going into this? Because that's a whole other topic, but it's beautiful. Anyway.
I was just thinking like it's funny because my energy number is number 3. So when you say 3 is there to support it, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, maybe we should have spoken about this. Yeah.
Maybe for another time we go into numerology.
Yes. We need another session.
So on the whole integration piece, I feel something that really has come out of this week as well is that once we really know who we are, we can begin creating environments that actually support what it is that we want to do. And maybe to start today, Renske, I'm curious to hear like what are your sort of like takeaways or highlights that you want to point out from the last conversations that we shall put a tick on once more.
From our conversations, definitely the part of the choices, that we always have a choice, no matter how bad things seem. And we also mentioned the fact that, yes, some people are more privileged than other people. We are very much aware of that. But you have a choice in perspective. How do you look at things? How much do you make things outside of you get an impact on you? And that's also where your transformative power is, right? Like, how can I change my perspective? So choices, a very strong one. For me, obviously the human design part, because I know it's a powerful tool to tap into your own being, your what works for me, like I said, as a tool. So really starting to understand yourself better. That is a key to really show up for yourself, and in that sense also show up for the world, because if you don't show up for yourself, you have nothing to give to the world, right? I think those are a few takeaways that I think are really strong from our conversations.
Amazing. Yeah, the piece that really stood out for me as well was around pain and really looking at trauma and what can it teach us? What are also the things, for example, when you then spoke about burnout and the benefits that it can actually have, that awakening that it can bring into our lives of like, why are we actually experiencing this? And then becoming curious, like what's this experience here to teach me? Which then I feel it leads to this whole choice piece of, cool, if everything is happening for me and not to me, so what am I going to do different going forward? And what are the choices that may feel actually really painful and really difficult? But but claiming that power and being like, yeah, I can actually make that choice. I am a sovereign being that can determine how I feel about what is happening. And having exactly what you said, this perspective of, yes, it's not happening to me, but it's happening for me. It's happening for my evolution.
Yes.
And I feel with that, a big thing for me is the gratitude element of, wow, everything that's coming into our lives is really coming into our lives for us, so that we can awaken to a different dimension of who we are.
Yeah.
And then, so the human design piece as one of the entry points, alongside with gene keys and astrology and plant medicine or whatever basically resonates, is such an exciting path to then from there step into what I really feel is the ultimate piece, is the oneness of self and environment. That yes, we are one thing, however, we are a product of the conditions that are around us.
Yeah.
And the coolest piece that I find that's so encouraging is like, man, we have the capacity to change that environment. And all it needs is basically this awareness, which I feel again comes from experiencing painful moments and recognizing like, man, I actually don't need to endure that. Yes, I can learn from it and then see, okay, how can I actually change my external conditions, and then by that change who I am becoming internally, and having this continuous feedback loop of outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, boom, 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 and kind of like raising me.
Yeah, definitely. In one of my last online sessions with an amazing group of Indian entrepreneurs where I was invited to speak, we also spoke about the pandemic and takeaways, and it kind of reminds me of what you are saying. We all have dreams, and especially when you are okay, let's say, a lot of people have, we want to serve the world, right? Our purpose is not just about us. Our purpose is bigger than that. It is about making a change or doing something back for others, or even if it's animals, climate, or people. But that is so big, and it paralyzes you sometimes. Like, how can I change the world by myself? Well, you can't and you can at the same time, because what I noticed is, yes, I have big dreams and big goals, but where do you start? Which is, first of all, inside of you. And when you've looked at all your traumas or patterns or beliefs that are not serving you, and you are growing and evolving into something stronger and more powerful, which you were already, but you start to embrace it yourself, you're like, okay, now maybe it's time I can start giving back or doing something for others. But if your dreams and goals are so big, then where do you start? And what I noticed, especially what the pandemic has taught me, is because we still aren't able to travel the world, to reach a lot of people. Online we can, but I noticed, start in your own environment. This is where the people are that need you the most. Your children, your partner, your neighbor, and if you show up for yourself and as your authentic self, you do that for the other people. You show up for the other people as well. And this is where it starts. It really is that simple. You change the world one step at a time, one person at a time, starting with you, and then the people right in your inner circle. And yes, that's how we, why would I think about, doesn't mean that I cannot still dream big, but it starts there, just with little steps, which are big in the end.
It's so cool what you say, because for me, what always comes up in these moments when people say like, yes, I want to change the world, it's always the question like, where does this ambition come from? Does it come from because the world needs to be a certain way for you to feel safe?
Mm-hmm.
Or does it come from a place of, wanting to kind of give a gift? And so what I begin to see more and more is actually, the more wholesome someone becomes, I feel the less they say like, oh, I want to change the world, because it's ultimately they have recognized like, man, the world changes by itself, just as I change. And it comes back to what we said earlier about perception.
Yeah.
if I choose to see the world differently, the world already has changed.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't exist sort of like in a very objective way, but it's subjective on what I want to see. And so there's this interesting author, Matt Riley, who speaks very much about that when we look sort of at the globalized world, the further away, the bigger the concept gets, the more we see kind of the negativity, things that aren't right, the things that, seem to be problems.
Yeah.
And the more we come to our immediate surrounding, the more positive our assessment is, the more like we're in the space of, actually the world is okay. Everything is good, we're safe and da-da-da. And so what it then also shows is how much of that perception of the world is then shaped by media, for example. Because when I speak to, for example, my friends in Syria, they are in a really like challenged environment. And at the same time, life is a lot better than what we would expect from looking at the news. And so I find it really fascinating that ultimately, when we bring it back to a human-to-human, heart-to-heart conversation, the world is a really encouraging, beautiful, and full of opportunity place, rather than when we trust the news where it's horrid, like messages from everywhere, which again comes back to our biology. When we are sort of like fear triggered, then it sort of like captivates attention. And I mean, ultimately news is very much in sort of like an attention business, rather than really in a genuine information and like uplifting business. And so I find that is such a fascinating concept again. Like, what is the environment we focus on? Is it really the environment we can impact, which are the people around us and whom we have this heart-to-heart connection? Or are we looking, we need to change the world, but then feeling completely disempowered and basically victimized by how terrible the state of the world is? And so really, I feel coming back to a one-on-one, heart-to-heart conversation with the people around us, I feel can do so much good for our own well-being.
Yeah. Oh, I love what you're saying here, because I believe that we can learn the most from the people that have the least. And the Western world is upside down when it comes to that, and capitalism all over. But what are probably your contacts in Syria? When of course I don't know them, but I know some other people that were war victims, or so when you lose everything, maybe, well, even Anne Frank, the book of the Jewish girl, you find things to be positive about. That's your survival mode as well. If you are, people in war zones are victims when it comes to that. They didn't ask for that. However, they don't choose to be a victim, because you turn on our survival mode and you start to see the beauty in the little things. That's how you stay alive, how you stay sane. That's how you stay. And that is beautiful. We can, I think the most beautiful lessons I've learned when I thought I lost everything, and speaking with people that either had lost everything or had been going through so much pain, or people that had everything but found out that it didn't make them happy. I love those conversations, because that's the realness. It's two opposites, and there's so much value in what they experience. And so it's definitely your perspective again. Having it all but not feeling fulfilled, or losing everything but feeling fulfilled. So strange, how that, well, not strange, but it's, that's actually how it works, I feel.
And I feel it brings up this sort of internal, external self and environment part again, where I would say, looking back, being trained to go to school, go to uni, make babies, have a family, blah blah blah, and then there was this sort of this expectation of like, these things will make you happy. And when I actually really look back, it's it didn't really make me happy. There were certainly aspects that were cool. And I mean, when I now look at my uni times, for example, I think I tweaked it, because what I really wanted to do was to travel. And I recognize I want to travel because when I travel and don't speak the language of the place I'm going to, instead of being able to, be strong with words, I just got to be strong with my intuition. Yeah. And so I'm basically creating that environment in which I can operate from a different place of knowing. Because I can't rely on actually speaking and communicating like this. So I can't be super cerebral, but I need to be more...
in touch with your feeling instead of
thinking.
Yeah.
And so when I then see, okay, I then had these experiences and tweaked it so that I actually kind of got what I really wanted. And so what I see underneath all of that is, I can feel basically whatever feeling I want at any point in time. So it doesn't actually come from an external thing.
Mm.
The happiness doesn't arise once I have a certain uni degree. Actually, it felt more disappointing because I was like, man, I didn't get the appreciation, the approval, and all these things that I thought I would get, And so I feel the big takeaway from the 8 conversations we've had is as well this, feelings come first, and then sort of the stuff on the outside manifests and potentially like reinforces that feeling. But it starts really from the awareness that we can produce any feeling we desire just by thinking about the desired outcome.
Yes.
Which also means that if we think about undesirable outcomes, we also create these feelings, which then creates sort of this, misery in the moment, and then, probably attract it further down the line.
That's another really big takeaway. And it is about feelings and emotions, even though emotions are like, we think of them as these come and go like thoughts, but what we feel is actually how we shape the world. If I show up feeling bitter or frustrated or angry, even though I tried to keep up a happy face, but if I feel that, then this is the energy I send out. So coming back to what I just said about creating the environment right here around you, that's if that's what you send out, then that's what they pick up, and that's the answer that you get. Or I became really aware of that, the power of my emotions and the effect it has on my environment, because I create either a frustrated environment or a happy feeling environment just by showing up myself. How do I show up? It's not always, and vice versa, right? If you see somebody else coming into a room and he's really frustrated or angry, it has an effect on you as well. So if we become more and more aware of that responsibility, first towards ourselves, and see inside, outside, how it affects our environment, just become aware of that during your days. Don't make it too big, make it small. Look at with the interaction with your partner, with yourself. Do I already wake up feeling frustrated or telling myself, oh man, I'm so tired today, shit, I have so much to do, I don't know, maybe your kid has put some clothes in your way and you almost fall and you start shouting, or you're being angry or frustrated and you see the kid and you're like, if that's how you start your day, then this is what they will feel as well. This is how it works, and they will pass it on to others. Or, it's very, when it comes to internal and external, this is the power that we have. But we always think that the power is in reaching goals, creating success, whatever success means, reaching this, getting that. I don't know it, but it is more about, how do I show up for myself and the world right now in this moment? And I'm not saying you are not allowed to feel angry. I'm not saying you are not allowed to feel sad or frustrated. It's all part of being human. Just become aware of the fact that you are feeling irritated or frustrated. Why am I feeling that, and is it worth it? Because what I'm sending out now is, especially during lockdowns, I'm sorry, I didn't finish my sentence, but in lockdowns, it happens a lot. People getting frustrated in each other's surroundings. One is doing calls for work, but partner is, needs to make some sound in the kitchen with appliances or whatever, and it's like, oh no, I have to wait and have to wait and have to wait. And I don't know if that is like, that even without words, that creates tension. Become aware of that.
Yeah, and it's so interesting when you say about the environments, because even within our body there is environments. So I, for a few months, have done Wim Hof's breathing technique. And so what I am basically see, I see systems within systems within systems.
Yes.
So I mean, what you just said was basically the human to human sort of environment. Then, I mean, in my body, there's like the cell to cell environment. And so what I recognize with these breathing techniques, I can change these environments, or by drinking apple cider vinegar in water, like it creates a higher alkaline state. The same breathing techniques, it creates more alkaline state in my body instead of an acidic state, which then makes the cells function in a different way, which is like so freaking beautiful. And then earlier as well, I was sitting on the couch listening to a podcast by a friend of mine where he was sharing his story. And so it's really been interesting, because suddenly I started crying. I was like, wow, this is really interesting how that story triggers these sensations. And then with these sensations, I suddenly felt sort of like more integrated, where I was like, man, it actually released a sort of held emotion that I had held in my body. And that again actually then changes my internal balance, my internal environment, which then allows me to show up differently to the people in my life, and with a deeper sense of like, I do feel sad, I do feel happy, I do feel all these things, and that's perfectly cool. While when I was smaller, it was always like, nah, boys don't cry and all these things. And so it's been really interesting how sort of the environment on the outside, having these messages, then created a certain environment within, which created the degree of like stuckness. And then finding how can we use sort of the external environment to change our internal environment, which ultimately then changes like how we again show up in the external, and finding that cool interplay where it's continuously like playing back and forth. How am I basically releasing and liberating, and ultimately just accepting that that everything is sort of connected with each other, and depending on where we put our focus, we are triggering internal feelings, but then also these internal feelings actually trigger like what we see in the situations that we're putting ourselves into.
There's two takeaways from what you just said is yes, everything is connected, and I think we have and all systems are connected, right? It's like this quote, you have a universe right inside of you. I mean, aren't we built of stardust? And everything that we observe on the micro level is an entire universe by itself. Molecules and atoms working together, and that is between thoughts and speaking with other people, or emotions, emotions. It's all a frequency. It's all yes, it's all connected. Yes, we are all influencing each other. Heck, we are actually even influencing people on the other side of the planet if we don't show up at our best self, and again, I feel yes, we are allowed to feel everything and anything, because that is part of us. We are human beings, but remember that you are the awareness behind that feeling, witnessing that feeling inside of you. So don't become too attached to that feeling of maybe being a victim or even happiness. Go to Buddhism. I didn't study Buddhism, but the only thing that I really feel about that philosophy as well is that Buddha really was always in a state of, it's like even if good things happen or bad things happen, it was always in the state of, there's not really good or bad if you just say balanced in whatever happens. So yes, Buddha is the awareness behind what's happening inside or outside. And wow, I'm going all directions right now, but it just maybe that could be another takeaway of today, you know, like, yes, everything is connected, but also know that you are that stillness in whatever happens inside you or outside you. There is a deeper level, which is stillness.
And what's interesting what you said about Buddhism and this whole piece of happiness, where I feel it comes back to what we had said 2 days ago about choices, where it's really, what am I choosing to feel in that situation? And then am I attaching labels to it, or am I just like, okay, this is happening, and I choose to feel happy and excited and in love with life. And it may bring up the emotion of sadness, or it may bring up the emotion of excitement, or whatever there may be. Ultimately, what's the filter I feel which we use to observe that event? And actually 2 days ago, I went to a friend of mine's and we stayed in his yurt and did some plant medicine.
Yes,
and it was just so interesting, because I literally like had that experience of being that awareness. I was just like, this is so cool. At the same time, what I'm seeing as well is these medicines I feel are really cool to sort of like highlight that we are more. It's actually the morning after, when I was looking at the river that was going past, I could see it's almost like I could see this sort of like cloud of electrons rather than seeing the water. And it was so interesting to and this is, I feel, where it leads very much sort of like into quantum physics, where I personally see once we make this transition from sort of Newtonian to quantum physics, suddenly really so many more possibilities open up, because I feel I could actually see the wave. And then when I focused, boom, it turned into these water particles. And this is cool. Now I see sort of like the wave function, it collapses into the particle. But what I also wanted to say in that is really this integration piece, where if we have these plant medicine experiences, for example, or if we're experiencing like anything in life, how do we really integrate it into our being? And it goes as far back as going through our past. For example, that for a number of years I was like, man, this whole uni thing, like, why did I do it? It's not really been part of me. It was completely a waste of time, or like previous relationships. And now what I'm beginning to see more and more is like it all integrates. It's all lessons along the way that I'm now able to bring together. And this morning I just had a coaching conversation with one of my clients where we spoke about this a lot as well. It's that everything that we've done, as long, and so in my case, as long as I was saying like this uni thing, that was never part of me, because I didn't feel at the time I was getting back from it what I actually desire. But now, as soon as I start realizing, okay, that's been part of my life experience, how can I actually make it useful for me right now? Then I started reaching out to one of my professors, and because he does a lot of work in the innovation space, where now my current interest is a lot in heart rate variability and how can we build high-performing teams. And so I began to see actually this whole heart rate variability and high-performing teams, what he does in the innovation space, it all comes actually together. And so we're now looking to create a program for innovation teams, high-impact entrepreneurs, of redefining the metrics of what success looks like.
Yes.
To really define success through body metrics, through the inside out, through flow, measuring how do our systems inside actually work so that we can create big things on the outside. And so bringing all of this together, and that's why I also find these heart-to-heart conversations so meaningful, because I feel as two people, we sort of like hold the space for each other to bring ideas forth and then draw out new insights that we might have not seen if we wouldn't be sort of like playing that ball back and forth and reflecting upon each other through our unique lenses.
Again, internal, external, right? We can figure it out all by ourselves, for ourselves. Actually, we can't, but we think, let's say you can. We always need the other to reflect us, how much we have evolved, to trigger us. Like, is there? I mean, there is not one truth. There are as many truths out there as there are human beings on this planet. That's how many, opinions and truths about, even if you believe the same thing, it is your perception of things. And I love that what you are doing with these entrepreneurs to really redefine the success and first go inside, and then okay, how does my inside affect my outer world, and then is that success? How do I measure it, and how do I feel, even though maybe you didn't reach that goal or that specific? I'm really interested in that. So keep me posted about what you're doing with that group of people. But yeah, even this conversation, I love learning from others. Even maybe what I say now, next year, if we have another conversation, I'm like, you know what? Remember that we spoke about this or that, and I changed my mind, or I have a new, a total new understanding about this, or I love that. I think that's the problem where we're talking about being stuck, which we also spoke about in the last days. You also get stuck if you're not open for other realities, for other other opinions, other ways of thinking, and start to embrace that. That makes you feel so much richer.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly, I feel, this whole integration piece, because as you say, all of us see different parts of maybe objective reality. And so if we're open to actually have these open-hearted conversations, then yeah, we're able to actually integrate. Okay, yeah, cool. This is my version of reality, and this is Renske's, and this is Emma's, and this is Marielle's, and it all comes together and actually allows me to see a larger version of like, okay, like what do different people observe from really similar events? Yeah. And then I feel within this integration is really where I see is really the creativity. Because once we begin integrating things together, this is when we bring together two unique people or two unique ideas. And this is where I see we create value.
Yeah.
By integrating things that previously were separated and bringing them together. This is, where we're stepping really into this value generating society. And so I really invite everyone who's been listening to these last sessions of like, what are the really integrations that you find in your own way, in your own experiences, but also then with the people that you have in your life. Like, how can you integrate these people more with each other so that it becomes a much, much stronger network of support as well. It's kind of almost become like this trampoline, you can and then kind of bounce up again. Because I feel our work on this planet is really about connecting to ourselves, to others, and others with each others, and ideas, and ultimately being kind of weavers in a way. Maybe that's why my mom was a weaver, and that's what I should learn from her.
One last thought that I want to share about this while you were speaking, I just came up with that. Like, what I experienced these last weeks is we speak so much, and I speak so much online with people, meetings about, amazing people show up on my path. But words, it's just, we as human beings, we are way more powerful than we think, or that we are actually able to. There's much more inside of us, but even now I'm finding it hard to find the right words. Words are great to communicate and to try to get across what we are feeling or thinking or envisioning, but it's just a little part of everything. What I experience is the energy is like, sometimes we cannot get out of our mouth what we are actually feeling, what we are actually experiencing. It's so talking is just one tool. And I really feel that there is a shift going on from people to just being here and stuck in your head and talking to each other, to more feeling and sharing energy on top of words. Yeah.
I think it's really beautiful. What my friend Saad said yesterday, he was mentioning the longest journey we'll ever go on is the journey from our head to our heart. And I feel that's exactly where I feel we are really at with what you said with this shift. And also when we think about the magnetic field, for example, of the heart being 500 times stronger than the one of the mind. And yeah, so if we're really looking at, wow, like what things are we attracting? It's just really fascinating to see how I feel science and spirituality are finding that really interesting mingling place of, what is this human experience and how can we, be happy and contribute and connect others and ultimately, leave the world in a better place, because not because we wanted to change the world, but because we've actually, as we say in my Nichiren Buddhism, it's like we went through our human revolution of really, and I always find it interesting, the word revolution, basically making around, like revolve. Like what is it that we're revolving around? And like what's basically the circle of life that we are closing for ourselves? And so I feel that's really with this whole integration part of today that I invite all of you to think, like what's kind of the center of your life that you're revolving around, and then what are the things that are maybe not integrated yet that once integrated could really harmonize your efforts and your energies into a more unified direction. So I'm curious, Renske, what are your sort of closing thoughts of this season?
Oh, I'm really, really, wow. Oh my God. I don't well, I was going to say exactly, and I see one of my notes here. I'm not going to show it to you because the handwriting is awful. I just wrote
Come on, bring it on. Let's be a bit vulnerable here.
You want to see it?
Yeah, bring it on.
It was okay. I'm going to have to do this though. Give me 1 second.
Are you beautifying it?
What have we been talking about all this time? Sorry for the noise. Internal, external.
Yeah.
And that was exactly what my answer was going to be. Like the key takeaway from me is the connectedness between our internal and external world and with each other, but also our feelings and how we influence our world around us with that. So train yourself to become that awareness behind your feelings, your thoughts and emotions. And that is something that I'm already on that journey, but it really happens to me now during the slightest little situations during my day. Like if you make dinner, if you walk on the street, if you talk with another person, it's like just become aware. How do I show up and how do I influence my world with how I show up? Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, we are ultimately the creators, and our perceptions change or determine kind of what we see. And so, I feel the more we can integrate what's inside with what's outside, and finding that conscious balance.
Yeah.
It really, puts us on a path to figuring out this experience of life. Renske, I want to say thank you so much for sharing these last 8 days and insightful conversations, reflections.
Thank you for the invitation, Tobias. It was a nice experiment together.
Yeah, I love experiments and seeing what arises. Lots of love to you, Renske, and thank you everybody who's been here and sharing the journey. And I'm curious to hear what's coming up for you.
Yes.
Happy weekend, everyone.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.